Oh, there you are, guys. Hi. Well, we're going to do a video today, and it's all about my most cherished vintage fragrances. I'm going to pick my top 10, or it turned out to be 11, my favourite vintage scents in my collection. I've got a big collection of vintage fragrances, so I think it'll be fun. I've done this kind of video before, but it's been a while, actually, so a recap on the state of the collection of my absolute favourites. So I think that should be good. Just struggling with a bit of a cold this week, but I wanted to get a video out for you guys. Really, lousy weather and all that's cold season. I'm just going to take a little bit of my nasal spray. Sorry, guys, I'll just do that. Hang on. Strong stuff, eh? Okay, so as I was saying, we're gonna get on with the video. So let's flip the hello. Yeah, ambulance, please. Yeah, I think it could. I think it could be an emergency. Yeah. It's fair to say with my own brand, Naughton and Wilson, when we created Gravitas Prom, we were inspired by some of the classic fragrances of yesteryear, but we gave the fragrance a bit more of a modern niche twist with some spice and vanilla on a classic fougere type structure. You can follow the link in the description if you'd like to find out more, maybe even buy the fragrance by the great perfumer John Stephen. Rave reviews we're getting for that one, and yeah, certainly some of the fragrances I'm about to mention were somewhat instrumental or inspirational, I should say, in the creation of this one, Gravitas Prom. Okay, viewers, so here we go. So we got 11 in the end. Inevitably, I couldn't get just 10 and be happy, so I've got 11 choices. I'm sure I will go back and put one of these back on the shelf and see another vintage fragrance that I somehow left out and kick myself. But for the moment, I think these are my most cherished 10 or 11 vintage fragrances, and in some cases discontinued altogether, but in some cases we've got the old formula, and I'm only including them as worth talking about if the old formula is significantly different to the earlier ones. So first up, we're going to go with Luciano Pavarotti. What a rare fragrance this is, a mid-90s release. I think it was 1994. Luciano Pavarotti, of course, the world-famous opera singer who's sadly no longer with us, famous perhaps for his performance of the aria Nessun Dorma, amongst many other things, and he was part of the three tenors with Placido Dominguez and one other famous opera singer whose name escapes me. Anyway, the fragrance is the most interesting thing here. I think there was another Luciano Pavarotti Pour Homme or something a bit later, but this is the one that I'm really captivated by. So I got it on eBay, very hard to track down, discontinued now, and it's a really, really rich, leathery, slightly sweet, and patchouli laden fragrance. So it's quite an old school vibe. If you like Givenchy Gentleman from Givenchy, the 1974 release, which I almost included in this list, which I do have as well, then you're probably going to love this. It's like the niche version of Givenchy Gentleman Vintage Formula. Of course, I don't think you really would regard this as a niche fragrance exactly. It's a celebrity fragrance, really. I have no idea whether it was priced at a high level or what, because he's a rather high-end kind of star compared to, no offense, a Britney Spears perfume or something like that. I suspect it might have been quite expensive. It came in a really nice box, which actually had a CD and a signed picture of him. So a really, really old school kind of vibe. I'm just going to smell a bit, actually. Yeah, it's got lovely, whoops, okay, the little top bit came off the cap. It's got a lovely patchouli note in there. It's definitely got some leather. There's a slight hint of a kind of boozy thing, and a lot of rich woody notes in this one as well. So I guess my simple description would be it's kind of the niche version of Givenchy Gentleman. Partly love it just for the novelty of having it, but I think the smell is really great. Actually perfect for this cold time of year that we're in, as I feel. Don't forget too, guys, I've got a code for you, Smelly10, gets you 10% off at executiveshaving.co.uk. Great shaving site, but they have loads of really well-priced fragrances too, including this one, Fra Rinnick, from the brand Extro. It's an aftershave eau de toilette, so it's the strength of an eau de toilette, but it comes in a splash form for aftershave use. Got a Mad Monk or something on the bottle, a really weird bottle design, but it's an excellent Extro, this company, a great Italian aftershave company. This is a beautiful kind of Turkish barbershop smell. It's a little bit spicy, but it's very citrusy. It's very fresh. It's very invigorating. and it's sort of the highest quality version I've smelled, or well, let's say one of them, of a really kind of inexpensive citrusy scent, like about £12 or something, or £12.50 I think, this for a 125ml bottle. Check out the link in the description if you're in the UK or the EU. The fragrances there do ship to those places. Smelly 10% off. So I'm going to dive back in time a bit further with the next one. A real favourite of mine, and this is Sport de PACO Rabanne, a 1986 release. And I rarely forget to pay tribute to Chris from Scentland, who helped me discover this one, the Scentland channel. And I've also got another slightly less lovely looking, it's a bit more battered, this bottle, so I've got a backup bottle with it. The spray has gone a bit funny on that one, but it kind of works. So Sport de PACO Rabanne was pretty much a flanker really to PACO Rabanne Pour Homme. You can see the similar shape to the bottle, and this was really the very, very early days of sport fragrances. So the sport fragrance fading really from the world of designer fragrance releases now, but it was really a sort of fresher, more energetic version usually of an existing fragrance. So there was Boss Sport, and a number of other sport fragrances came out during the late 80s. There was a KOUROS Eau de Sport as well in 86 too. So it was really the year, and from here onwards, that this concept started to kick off and be a thing. So this is a sport fragrance that if you have tried more recent things like Chanel Allure Homme Sport from 2004 or Dior Homme Sport in its various iterations, you may not recognize this. Those are really fresh, sort of I was going to say sporty smelling, maybe a little bit aquatic, very zesty, very vibrant fragrances, and this has an element of that, but it's really an aromatic fougere fragrance. The green colour there gives you a clue, but with a twist of a lime and a little twist of mint amongst many other notes. There's tarragon, there's patchouli, there's a ton of woody base notes. So it's really got a little bit of that rugged PACO Rabanne Pour Homme original vibe, but it adds a rather zingy, zesty lime at the top, but stays quite sort of mossy, even a little bit piney and green. So definitely an old school dad type smell, but there's something a bit unique, and it's not quite as sort of a typical 80s powerhouse or fougere. It's not like PACO Rabanne Pour Homme or Azzaro Pour Homme. It's got a little bit more of a freshness about it, but there's something very rugged and, let me say, 80s. So the sport guy that you see for Chanel or your Allure Homme Sport is this guy on a surfboard, looking all ripped and everything. But the sport guy you envisage with this one is, maybe wearing a headband and wristbands. And if he played tennis, maybe he still had a wooden tennis racket or something like that. So it's, if he was a footballer, he'd have his socks rolled down, no shin pads, and his shirt hanging out, and we'd be playing on a pitch covered in mud. It's a rugged, sporty fragrance, really fun to have it, very hard to find now, getting a bit expensive, but it's not the world's most popular one, so you might be able to get it for a decent price. I love a bit of Sport de PACO Rabanne. Let's get into a more modern fragrance. I was hesitant to include this because can it really be regarded as a vintage scent? It's certainly discontinued now, and it's the 2012 formulation, the original formula of Eau Sauvage Parfum from Dior. I very nearly included the original Dior Sauvage Parfum, but I narrowly favoured this. That could be an honourable mention. The original Eau Sauvage Eau de Toilette, that I have the vintage, and it is superb. Let's put that as a kind of cousin to this, but this was a 2012 release from Parfumeur François de Machy, and it does have some similarities to the original Dior Eau Sauvage, which is a citrus aromatic scent, and this one is classified as just that as well. I've got a backup bottle, as you can see, of 50ml and 100ml, and it's a really nice bergamot opening. The official note listing only has bergamot along with myrrh and vetiver. I think there's a lot more going on in that one, probably some lavender. So similarities in the opening with the original, and then it has this resinous undertone and dark, rich woods, very classy, dressed up fragrance. So a bit maybe like if you like Eau Sauvage, but you want to wear something a bit more heavy for an evening out in the winter, going to a wedding, that kind of thing. Very, very beautiful, not dated smelling, but somehow has a classic, timeless, very grown-up vibe about it. I've got compliments on that, and I don't get an awful lot of those. Love the packaging design. There's a modern version that they've changed the formula, released in 2017, slightly different label. I think it's more of a silvery label, and that's also good, but this is my preferred one by a long way. So a modern classic, sadly gone from the shelves. Now, you may be able to still get a bottle, but they're going up in price on eBay. I bought one in the shops when it was still on sale, and then this one actually came from eBay. So Eau Sauvage Parfum, really, really classy juice. If you find some of the smells I mentioned here might be dated, this doesn't smell dated, but it does smell mature and grown up. A sort of a citrus aromatic with a hint of a sort of incensey depth, and really, really magnetic. It's got that dark green colour, compared to the transparent juice of the Eau Sauvage Ridge. And I think that tells you something. Love, love, love that stuff. Don't forget, if you'd like to join the Smelly Army private members club over on Patreon, there's a link in the description to do that. It costs just $2 a month and you get an extra video from me every week. Plus you get to watch everything I've already uploaded in there. We're building a really nice community, lots of interaction, and I'd love to see you in there. Okay, what's next? Where should we go next? I'm not too sure actually. Okay, let's throw this one in next. So YSL Opium Eau de Parfum. The mid-90s saw the release of YSL Yves Saint Laurent's Opium Pour On. There was an original Opium, of course, for women back in the 80s, and then they came out with the men's version. I'm not sure at which point the Eau de Parfum flanker to the original Eau de Toilette came out, no idea actually, but it's really hard to get this version now. We've got some notes on the bottle there in French, so I guess I'll try to read those. My French translation may leave something to be desired. So the note dominant is vanilla bourbon, so bourbon vanilla. In the head, or the top of the thing, you've got anise, which of course is aniseed, and cassis blackcurrant. Galanga, I'm afraid I don't know. Poivre de Sichuan, of course, is Sichuan pepper. Tolu balsam and Atlas cedarwood. It was picked by Miguel Matos actually. Well, no, I shouldn't tell you that, but I'm giving you a spoiler in a video that may go up after this one, where he shared with me his 5 most loved fragrances. And it's really, really hard to find now. It's very rich, dark, and the opium name is appropriate. It's a sort of narcotic vibe. It's a sweet, but it's also very resinous. It's a real oriental fragrance, as it says there, an oriental fray. And yeah, if you maybe, I was going to say gourmand, it's not gourmandish, but if you like fragrances with some nice vanilla, but a darkness about them, this really has that dark blackcurrant kind of thing. It's not a very zingy, fruity, sweet, fun blackcurrant, and the anise note there mixed with this heavy, balsamic, resinous Tolu balsam, and the Atlas cedar just rounding things out perfectly in the base. A really magnetic and intoxicating fragrance, as you would expect from the name. Opium from Yves Saint Laurent. So check that out. You can get the modern Eau de Parfum, which is not bad, but doesn't quite have the magic of this one. Something was missing for some reason. Let's go back a little further in time to 1959, and I've got a little selection here of this one because I love it. I've got the modern version, which is also really good, but there are quite significant differences in the smell of that with the older one here, Monsieur de Givenchy, released in 1959. I'm also lucky enough to have a haute concentration version, which I think came out in the 80s. So a classic citrusy chypre fragrance, very gentlemanly. If you like Chanel pour Monsieur, you'll probably love this one. It's got beautiful bergamot in the opening, plenty of kind of herbal tones in the mid notes. There's lavender in here, there's vetiver, oak moss in the base. A classic citrusy, affable, gentlemanly scent, definitely comparable to Chanel's Pour Monsieur, which I also love, but I actually narrowly favour this one. So if you want a really nice green chypre with a citrus bias, vintage Monsieur de Givenchy, which I love the packaging. I'm annoyed I've lost the box I used to have for one or two of these, and a really, really good fragrance. I've got the 30ml and a 60ml splash, a sprayer, and that's a sprayer too. Absolutely great. The modern version is a little bit different, but pretty similar and well worth getting if you want to get the reissue in the Parfums Mythique series. I still have that and still use that sometimes. Really like it. Okay, so the reason I'm picking some of these, sometimes it's because the smell is amazing, sometimes it's because I just love having the bottle because it's a rare one, and this one maybe ticks the having a rare thing box just a bit more now for me than it does the actually loving the smell madly. So I was really lucky to find this in a charity shop. Of course, it's Dolce & Gabbana Buy for Man or By Man. Crazy zebra bottle design. Maybe that's why the fragrance didn't turn out to be a big seller. And it's regarded as a sort of powdery barbershop smell. I'm just going to smell a little bit as I talk. I've actually got it's a tester bottle, so I'm going to say what they say on the notes. So it's 3 Hedion's elixir, God knows what that is, pepper, nutmeg leaves, lymph life scent, again, what the heck, lavender, artemisia, sandalwood, leather, gaiac wood, ambrox, and amber. So I think it's got something a little bit in common with Jean Paul Gaultier Le Male, but I like it a bit better than that. It's definitely got a lavender and sandalwood combination in the base and a really nice powdery feel. So maybe if you like something like Rive Gauche, which came a little later from Yves Saint Laurent and didn't quite make my list, but you want a slightly more sweet and powdery version, a bit more metrosexual smelling, this is a really great option. Really, really nice smell. I don't think it's quite an 11 or 10 out of 10 for me in the smell, but I think it's very, very nice. DIOR fragrances do an alternative called DIOR Pour Homme, which is bang on. You can get that because this is really hard to find and very expensive if you do find it on eBay. So 1997 release, Max Gavari, the perfumer, by Farman from Dolce & Gabbana. Definitely cherished by me. Next up then, we go for another 90 cent earlier in the decade. If I've got the boxes, I'm showing them. If not, I'm not. So this is INSENSE, or INSENSE, from the house again of Givenchy. So really, really interesting, regarded as being rather a floral fragrance for men, which was slightly daring when Givenchy released this one. And for me, it's the smell of spring blossom in a men's fragrance. It's got juicy citrus notes with a lovely blackcurrant twist, many different floral notes, and the actual list of them temporarily escapes me, and a bit of a kind of oak mossy fougere dry down. It's actually an aromatic fougere fragrance, but a very different one to most of what you may associate with that style. So I would call it a floral fougere, if such a thing can exist. It doesn't really come off feminine, although a lady could certainly wear it. But it's like a classy men's fresh scent from maybe the 90s kind of vibe, but with this lovely hint of just that first week or couple of days when you suddenly see the spring blossom on the trees and the weather stops being cold here in the UK and gets really nice and you get your first sunny day. This encapsulates that feeling in a fragrance so hard to find now, sadly, but it's an absolutely great scent. I really love it. So if you're interested in finding this one, eBay is the place where you can get it. Again, really hard to find. I don't know of any great clones of that, but there might be one out there. Next in the list then, let's go right back for a real true classic. KOUROS from Yves Saint Laurent. Sometimes I think I love this and sometimes I think, is it too much for me? So I was really lucky to find the original iteration. It's called the Paris of the Ritz era. There's a site called Raiders of the Lost Scent where you can find out a very in-depth article about different bottles and eras for all you total geeks out there. I love the classic bottle design. I think mine's from about 1986. You can see the label there, prices at £9.50, so it came from some pharmacist back in the 80s. Gives you an idea of how the value of money changes, and that would be like maybe roughly it translates to like $11 or $12 now. So it was much cheaper back in the day, but probably in real terms about the same as a designer fragrance now, maybe even more. And let's have a look at the bottle. That's the most important thing. So here it is, the classic design for KOUROS, of course, the silver shoulders denoting the vintage version, and you even got a little leaflet with this back in those days when buying a designer fragrance was a bit more of a special thing, and there weren't so many people buying niche, and you got this rather fancy leaflet when you bought a lot of these fragrances. So I'll just show that on screen too. And so it's got all kinds of other products like a moisturizing type thing and all that kind of stuff that you can get, moisturizing shaving cream and different languages for those. And they're also plugging the flanker that I mentioned there, Sport, Eau de Sport, the KOUROS Eau de Sport version. Whoops. And that, I think that only came out in 86, but I know this is the era of production of this, which was apparently only ran from 80 to 86, which suggests this leaflet and therefore gives us a clue. It may be sorry about the focus there, guys. It may be a 1986 bottle. Anyway, really good potent fragrance, kind of dirty and clean all at once. Very musky. If you like musk, you'll like it. Everything but the kitchen sink note listing. It was Pierre Bourdon who created it. Officially a fougere. Some fresh notes, some soapiness. A lot of animalic undertones. There's a hint of honey in there. There's bergamot. There are every flower you've ever heard of mentioned in a fragrance is in there. There's definitely, I think it's definitely musk, and is it civet or cassia? I think it's civet. So you've got a little bit of that funky, dirty smell too, and a real testosterone vibe. Fresh and clean and slightly sweaty smelling. People mention urinal cakes. I never get it, but maybe there's some kind of chemical there that you may find in some bodily excretions. I'll say that may be going on. So it's challenging, and it's absolutely beast mode in this vintage formula. Any version with the silver shoulders is somewhat vintage, but there are different eras, and it got weakened a bit in its oomph before the modern one with no silver shoulders, which is apparently a little bit of a shadow of what it used to be. This one is an absolute stunner too. I really enjoyed a recent wearing of this. It's Louis, Rochas Louis. 2003 release, I believe it was Michel Almarac, the perfumer, and he was also the man behind Gucci Pour Homme, I think the same year, the one that you can't get anymore, and apparently they smell pretty similar. I've weirdly never tried. Oh, I did have a tiny sample once of Gucci Pour Homme. I love Rochas Louis. It's got citrus and neroli type stuff in the opening of the scent. A lovely creaminess about it, sort of almost a vanilla and some sweet creamy notes and a creamy cedarwood kind of thing. It's fresh, but it's woody at the same time. There's a hint of sweetness, and it's got a really classy aura. It's very wearable, even in the modern day, very unique, and very hard to find now. I've got a half full bottle there, which I was really lucky to find on eBay. Rochas Louis, definitely very treasured by me, and highly recommended. And I just be quick on this one because I've mentioned it a lot before on the channel. So it's Dolce & Gabbana Pour Homme. Sorry about two Dolce & Gabbana. Seems to be some houses that I like more than others, doesn't it? Givenchy, Yves Saint Laurent. Yeah, okay, so lovely bottle, lovely box, kind of velvety, citrusy, fresh, fougere-like floral tones too, mandarin in the opening, very nice and fresh. Also a lovely twist of fresh green tobacco leaves, the unique thing in this one. Great one that you can still pick up if you're persevering on eBay. I've got about 4 or 5 bottles I've picked up over the years, this one nearly full. You need the version with this sticker, the Euro-Italian version, made in Italy, and the ones without the sticker are not so good. If you can get this, you're in for a treat. Performance just okay, not actually all that amazing on that. It's quite good, but it's not beast mode or anything. Last one, very briefly, guys. This, I really like having this in the collection. No one's heard of it. Charles Jourdan, Un Homme. So this one was a 1980, I think, or very early 80s release. I think I bought it from Slovenia on eBay, former Yugoslav Republic. And it's an aromatic fougere, similar to PACO, no, not PACO, well, kind of Azzaro Pour Homme, 1978 release, but it's a little smoother and better than that, I think. It's got that kind of anise note mixed with some of the classic soapy fougere stuff, rugged undertones, but not too hair on your chest. Very smooth, beautiful fougere. Some people say it's as good as Patou Pour Homme, the legendary one. That's what I want to get most, but it's always really expensive. That some people have said this could be just as good. So if you like your old school fougeres, I was really pleased to pick up this on a whim when I didn't know what it was. Charles Jourdan Un Homme, from a little known fragrance house. Guys, that was the list. Thank you ever so much for joining me. I really am grateful, and I hope some of you will be happy that I'm doing this kind of vintage video, something I tend to do a bit more of than the average reviewer. Let me know if you'd like to see more of this type of content. I've got tons of other vintage fragrances, must have 50, 60, maybe 100 that could have been in this list. Whatever you're doing in, guys, let me say that again. Whatever you're doing in life, guys, let's project. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.